Have you tried Anchor FM yet? What are you waiting for? Anchor is the only platform that includes all the tools that you need to launch your podcast instantly, including monetization. That's right. Start making money right now. Record, edit, distribute, and earn, all right from your Anchor FM dashboard. It's time to set sail on that podcast that you've been dreaming of making. Just don't forget your Anchor. Anchor FM, the easiest way to make a podcast ever.
There's a speed limit in this state, Mr. Neff. 45 miles an hour.
How fast was I going, officer?
I'd say around 90.
But what about us?
Memories. You're talking about memories.
Good, now have a drink.
I don't want anything of his or any part of it.
Except his life.
I wonder if I know what you mean.
I wonder if you wonder.
Played it for her, you play it for me. I lived a few weeks while she loved me. Waiting for a lady. Someday you'll understand that.
Got some news that's gonna take a lot of tension off you and Laura.
Stop it, Dix! I can't take any more of this!
I should be in it for him.
You know the story?
What story?
Maybe because he was drunk.
Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
Well, I'll give her the message.
But they're asleep all over America.
Welcome to the Speakeasy Noir Cast, a podcast discussing film noirs of yesterday and neo-noirs of today. Each week, we will deliver a discussion and analysis of classic and neo-noir films, all mixed in with our unintelligible banter. Your hosts for the show, Carly Street and Jason D. Morris.
You can get up at this time in the morning and just be like, hello. I remember that awful time when I had to wake up for that call with them Australians, and I was just like,
Oh,
I'm here.
You know, it takes a little bit of effort, but that's the 15 minutes before I get on the phone.
Oh, okay.
That's when my alarm goes off, and I'm like, yeah.
I did have to juice myself with my weird smoothie, to be fair, because I was a bit groggy myself.
That's funny. I mean, at least you're sticking with it, I guess. I don't know why. I guess it's healthy. You guys. I remember at one point you said you guys were stop drinking, I guess, or trying to stop drinking.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad, like, they drink every single day of their life because they're both retired. So they just, like, if they've got no shopping to get, they just crack open a beer, whatever time it is. But then they spend like 2 months where they have a complete detox. I mean,
Yeah, it just gets dumb, I guess, huh?
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should give that a go.
Yeah, I mean, is it working out? Or are you still doing it or no?
Yeah, that's why we have the smoothies as well.
Nice. Okay.
So
Good
good
stuff.
because I think in lockdown everybody had a little bit too much.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think they
Still
kind of
having
just
a little bit.
matched our level. But luckily we were able to go work, so we didn't just sit there all day and night. Plus, I'm with this horrible cold, I'm really not smoking a lot. So I've been trying to knock that on the head for ages.
How long have you had the cold? I thought you just got it.
For like 3 days.
Oh boy. Well, I hope you do feel better. Good to catch up with you though, and I guess that's a good thing that you're switching to smoothies instead of Coors or Bud Light or whatever it is, because that stuff is horrible anyway.
Hey. Yeah, I got some pineapple. It's like this one's a pineapple surprise.
Yeah?
Pineapple, the rest is a surprise of whatever's in the fridge.
All right. Well, before we get into our movie tonight, let's do our drink for the night. This is something I've never had before. It seems like it might be kind of interesting. I'm not sure. You know, actually, before I do this, let me look up what the hell this word means.
That's very professional of you to do it beforehand.
Well, I figured this has a definition of some sort. It has to, but I guess it doesn't. I guess it's just the name of a cocktail. This is interesting. All right, well, our drink for tonight is called the Sazerac.
Oh.
Which I was certain means something.
Sazerac, that sounds like a villain in, like, Marvel.
but there's no other definition that I can find on it, but it's just a drink. So the Sazerac is 2 ounces of rye whiskey, 0.5 ounces of simple syrup, 2 dashes of, oh boy, Pie Chod's bitters. It's just another bitters.
Yeah.
Probably just a brand. Ooh. And absinthe.
Oh, God.
It says if you like a drink with some bite, give this classic New Orleans concoction a try.
Or if you want to die. Oh.
To make this drink, you're going to rinse a chilled glass with absinthe and discard the absinthe. Stir the other ingredients in a mixing glass, strain into a chilled glass, and garnish. So pretty simple. I'm surprised that you just washed the glass with the absinthe.
Yeah.
But I guess that's we came across that before with Street explained it to us. I guess back in the day, that's how they would clean their glasses out was with an alcohol. I can't remember what he called that. Like you prep the glasses with alcohol first, and I guess this will just add a extra little kick or hallucination. Since we're doing it with absinthe.
Oh yeah, good lord.
Which I don't know if absinthe is hard to come by over there, but it is over here in the U.S.
It is now.
It is now? It's hard to come by?
Yeah, it wasn't like, say, 10 years ago. It was everywhere.
Interesting.
But
That's the exact opposite from here.
really?
Yeah, because it used to be banned because the wormwood, I guess, has hallucinatory properties or whatnot. And then over the past 10 years, they've been sort of loosening it up, or there've been other recipes, I guess, of making absinthe that either lessens the amount of wormwood or doesn't even have it in it at all.
Well, like waters it down.
And it's become a little more popular out here. It tastes horrible. So I mean,
vile.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to cut it with sugar and water.
It is horrible.
Yeah. But I think people like it because it has that sort of mythology to it. At least out here anyway. So guys, we hope that you have the ingredients to make your very own Sazerac, which I think sounds more like a demon from Supernatural.
Yeah.
But drink along with us as we watch today's film, or not watch today's film. We already watched it, but you can watch it while we discuss it. So enjoy your Sazerac. And here is the trailer for the Asphalt Jungle.
Only the author of Little Caesar could tell so dramatic a story. Only the director of The Treasure of Sierra Madre could film it with such power. Only once in a decade does the screen come up with such absorbing characters. Sterling Hayden as Dix Handley, a hooligan with a twisted dream. Jean Hagen as Doll, the dime-a-dance dame who wanted to share that shabby dream.
Let me go with you. Please, Dix, please.
Are you crazy? I'm on the lam. I'm wanted bad, packing heat. If there's any trouble, what good would you be?
I could drive.
No, Doll. I'm wanted on a killing rap. You know what that means.
I don't care. I just want to be with you.
Louis Calhern as Emmerich, the big-time mouthpiece with crime on his mind.
Oh, I suppose a fella should stick to his own trade, but I know some pretty big men around here that might not be averse to a deal like this if they're properly approached. Highly respectable men, I might add.
Sam Jaffe as Doc. He's got $1 million in that little black bag, and a jitterbug cost him every dime of it. Marilyn Monroe as Angela, the easy-living, green-eyed blonde.
Haven't you bothered me enough, you big banana head? Just try breaking my door, and Mr. Emmerich will throw you out of the house.
James Whitmore as Gus, the strong-arm boy. A right guy in a wrong world.
Gus, come on!
see her show up.
I say you're not doing well at keeping it a surprise.
I'm not. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at all of this. I have no business being on a podcast.
Well, neither do I, so that's fine.
And funny enough, I think the tagline for the movie is "The City Under the City."
God. Oh yeah, it is.
Should
The
be
City Under the Sea.
Should be the City of No Names, I guess. I don't know, because they never mention what city it's in, and they don't really go physically underground per se. Well, I guess they do for a short time, but I guess it just means they're hiding out, or it's the underground. I don't know. I found this to be a pretty fun heist movie. I think that the character setup in this movie was pretty well done. Personally enjoyed Sterling Hayden's performance and his character in general. I don't know. I felt like there was like this strange kind of camaraderie amongst him and these other people that he gets to do this heist, I guess. But I mean, before we actually get into, I guess, delving into that portion, Carly, I think I've already spoiled it and said it's a heist movie, but we need to do your, in a nutshell, sort of synopsis so people get a better feel for this.
I don't know if it'll be a better feel for it.
Uh-oh. Hopefully.
Right.
You'll try? All right.
I'll try.
Well, I guess you might need some piano music.
And now it's time for Carly's super famous in a nutshell synopsis.
Every time I hear that, it just throws me right off. Okay. A beautifully planned, intricately plotted heist goes perfectly to plan until the very moment they leave the scene of the crime, when utter chaos and implausibility ensues for another hour.
Well, I mean, that is it, more or less. And it's funny because the time that Houston takes to lay out the actual robbery is fairly impressive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you see this nowadays in most heist movies, and it's probably because of the Asphalt Jungle, where they really go into detail and take their time to let you experience the actual crime. Particularly in heist movies, you don't normally get to see that in detail unless it's the beginning of like an episode, of Columbo or something. But when it comes to like a heist movie, it seems to be pretty typical that they lay it all out for you in great detail. And this is, I think, is the first movie I've ever seen that really does that. Now, I don't know which year the original Ocean's 11 or things like that came out, but I think this precedes it. And I personally really enjoyed that because I wasn't expecting a lot of these older film noirs really sort of brush over detail and put a lot of it.
Yeah, they're a bit vague, aren't they?
Yeah. And if they do sort of, give you more detail, it's generally most always in dialogue. I don't know if that's a money-saving tactic or lack of technical, advancement, I guess, maybe for certain things, time, whatever it might be. But Houston took great detail in this film to play it all out and made it very realistic and plausible, I guess, for the technology of the time, with the silent trip alarms and, cracking the safes and everything like that. And I thoroughly enjoyed the concept of the explosion setting off all the other surrounding alarms. I thought it was great and something you don't typically see. You see these big explosions in some of these heist movies where they do this sort of thing and like nobody noticed it.
Yeah.
Silly. So I definitely appreciated that more realistic approach to it.
I liked how it's like they were pitching a caper, but they set it up like a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
You go, tell me the strengths and the weaknesses of the plan. Well, this is where it might fall down, but this is obviously, we're going to do this one right. I thought that was really interesting because I'd never seen so much, like you say, attention laid out to the crime itself.
Yeah, it was really a they approached it with a realistic sort of, mindset. If you're going to do this, I mean, these are very technical skills some of these people need. And so it makes sense to actually give them a thorough interview. It can't just be, hey, I got this pal. He says he can break into a safe.
Yeah, we've got this guy. He says he can drive. He's just drunk 99% of the time, but never mind.
Right. And by doing that, it appears that they put together a very solid team that's, that has their shit together more or less. They know what they're doing. They get in and almost get out without a flaw. I don't think that their skill set caused any of what happened to happen. I really think it was just dumb luck.
Yeah, because even the guy getting shot just as they're leaving, that wasn't something that was anybody's fault and could have been something that they could possibly have fixed had not the other stuff been going on.
Yeah, exactly.
So even that wasn't that didn't ruin the plan for the other three.
No, just killed one of his buddies who, another thing that I love about this movie is how loyal these two people are to Dix, the cafe owner.
Yeah, why though? Because Dix is horrible. Why are they so loyal to him?
Well, see, I don't look at him like he's horrible though. I look at him like he just, maybe obviously he wants his good life back. Maybe that childhood life. He wants to go back to the farm that he grew up on, kind of thing, right? That's his whole goal of doing this, is to buy this farm that he grew up on and get away from the city, to get away from all the madness, get away from the temptation of being a criminal, more or less. So I don't look at him like he's a really bad person. I look at him like he's appropriate for his situation. The dude doesn't have money. He's doing what he's got to do to get by. And I think because his own loyalty to people, he's sort of built up that reservoir of trust with these people that they know that they could count on him, and he in return can count on those people.
He's not very nice to that poor woman, though, is he? Let's face it.
No, he's not. And I think, but there's
I think
a bit
he is
of a
in his
little,
own way. Maybe he's nice to him in his own way, but actually he's not. It's not that nice, but I guess he thinks that he's going out of his way for quite a lot of the time.
I think it's sort of a hidden charm. I think it's the idea that he knows he's in a bad spot. He knows he can't take care of her the way he might want to or she deserves. So as such, I think that he treats her in such a way to try to make her not love him. Because he can tell that he can tell that she's basically madly in love with him. Then she would do anything for him.
Wow. When she was acting, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
A little nervousness with the eyelashes and everything, and like cleaning up after him. And
yeah. No, it was a good character, and she played it very well. But I do think that really stems from that sort of his own personal demons, feeling like he's not worthy and she can do better. So he's trying his best to keep her at a distance. But I mean, let's face it, everybody gets lonely, right? Everybody needs, somebody, and that's who it ended up being for him. And he's having a hard time pushing her away, but he is the tough guy.
He's giving it a good go.
Right? So, I mean, he's got nothing else to do other than that. He's just, what is his other choice? Just embrace that fact and then potentially get her killed down the road, or, be responsible for her having a terrible life because you're a thug and there's nothing else that you know how to do. So again, there's a lot of aspects to it that felt very realistic.
Did his character remind you of, like, I wonder if, Russell Crowe's character in LA Confidential?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a bit.
I wonder if they kind of based that a little bit on Dix.
I don't think so. Because there's a set of movies that the director for LA Confidential had the cast watch, and this isn't one of them. And that movie was based on the books. So I don't believe so, but there's definitely some similarities to Russell Crowe's character. I mean, they're both very tough guys with some sort of strange, past, whatever it might be, and they're in situations they probably don't necessarily want to be in, and maybe it's just circumstantial or whatnot. But yeah, I would agree with that. I think that there's a lot of aspects that sort of match, and I think it's just out of coincidental, time period of film noir films. That LA Confidential is going to match up with a lot of elements from films. But going back to the cafe owner and his loyalty and whatnot, he obviously really cares about Dix.
Well, yeah, he gives him like 15 grand in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, he whatever it might be. Maybe he just wants to help the guy out. Maybe he's been in a situation before. Maybe he's just seen him, life get the best, and whatever it might be.
I was surprised when Gus was then the car driver, because I got the impression that Gus was trying to keep him out of that life and help him.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, we need this car driver."
Yeah.
Oh, it's Gus. What? I thought he just shouted at him for bloody wasting money with this guy, getting involved in the criminal world. And then he's just like, yeah, let's go and do a heist.
Well, it could be a couple different things, and maybe like unspoken sort of, thing between friends. Maybe he goes along with it to try to make sure Dix comes out of it alive.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe he knows that they can't find anybody else.
Doesn't trust anybody else.
Yeah, it could be that too. Or maybe he no longer wants to run the cafe and he wants to get out. Maybe he's got bills. Who knows? I mean, Dix does ask him for money, which he might not necessarily have, but then he goes to his other buddy and sort of like badgers him into borrowing money, which I found kind of funny. But I mean, that was another example of these people that Dix is surrounded with that have this loyalty to him and pretty much would do anything for him. I mean, this guy's got a family and a new kid, and he's going to give, Dix all of his money. And it was pretty impressive, I thought. Because I don't think that, most people in real life end up with friendships that strong. I mean, you might have one or two, I guess, but especially if you're in these sorts of situations as Dix is, I mean, I think people kind of might consider you more like a lowlife or, not worth the time sort of thing, or you're going to screw them over or whatever. But obviously this guy's got an angel on his shoulder, has done something positive for these people in the past that make him want to help him out. Or I guess you could just look at it as a flaw of the movie. I'm not sure. I think John Huston is experienced enough
to not
making
let that.
great films. Yeah, that there's some back to that. And I guess and I think that if the film was a B movie that was shot cheaply, that's probably where we would go. I would probably be like, yeah, this was a crappy film. They had no backstory, whatever it was. But I think because of the quality of the other directorial aspects of the film, and how much care I think Huston put into certain scenes and different elements, that it just makes you feel like, there's stuff there that we just might not know about. And I'm cool with that. I'm good with that. I also think that, going back to the cafe owner, there's a scene in the very first cafe scene, which really sort of, I think there's a lot that sets us apart from most film noirs of the time. This one's a little bit later. This one comes in 1950, which is sort of like the maybe midpoint of noir. So these sorts of movies have been coming around for a while. But one thing you don't see very often is rack focusing in these older films. And Carly, that's where you're like, the camera's focusing on something in the distance, and then the focus changes to something in the foreground, or vice versa.
Okay.
and for the folks at home. And that's something it's done to draw the viewer's attention from one thing to another, and it being two objects at different focal distances makes for very interesting shots. In today's cinema, it's quite common to see those sorts of things. But in these older films, it's not seen very often at all. When you do see it, it's like, oh, that was a good shot. And he does it very early on here in this cafe scene where we see something in the distance. I can't remember if it was like Dix or something else, but then it rack focuses to Gus on the phone. And it's a very nice dynamic shot. And they do it a couple times throughout the movie, which I personally really enjoyed from a production standpoint. And they also sort of pulled a later on in the film, there's a scene where Dix is laying on the couch at his girl's house, or I can't remember exactly where they're at, but he's laying on the couch and she's basically taking care of him. And this particular shot I found to be a little bit strange, and I know why they do it, but I just figured there was probably a better way to do it, or maybe this was sort of like a new way of doing it at the time. But they sort of split the focus. She's further back in the scene than he is. He's on the couch, which is more in the foreground, and she's more in the background, coming from the kitchen to a coffee table and then back to the kitchen sort of thing as they're talking or whatnot. And so they split the focus. They basically put the focus in the middle of the scene, which is about where the coffee table is. So neither her nor Dix is in focus. They're both sort of slightly soft, and the coffee table is full on focus. And usually you would do this to save time so you don't have to rack back and forth if you're going to hold on that scene for a long time. And I felt that was a little odd for this movie. Usually you would shoot coverage and do like close-ups of her, close-ups of him, whatnot, go back to a full-on in-focus shot for the master, something like that. But they were trying to pull this little trick where they're both in different depths of the scene and split the focus. And that was the one shot in the movie that I thought was a little strange that they chose to do that, opposed to shooting coverage or whatnot. And maybe for the time, maybe it worked because, just like VHS, there's a lot of things that you could get away with that you can't get away with now on a Blu-ray because you can see everything clearly. And on a VHS tape, you couldn't do that. Maybe that was sort of the case with film back then. It was more forgivable than these remastered, cleaned up versions where you can really see everything. But that coupled with a lot of these fantastic, I don't want to call them landscape shots, but they really are. They're landscape shots of this city, of this asphalt jungle.
This place, this mystical place that we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And Houston and his director of photography do a really great job of capturing that. He's got these really tall pillars and these. I mean, it's all concrete, and it just looks really great, and it really sets the story up. Now, you're sort of in this big city, even though a lot of the other locations film maybe small townish, I guess, like the small cafe, things like that.
So, hey, Carly, why don't we take a break and listen to an ad from one of our sponsors? You're listening to the Speakeasy Noir Cast, the show that brings you binge drinking with a side of noir, with your host, Carly Street and Jason D. Morris.
God, there's always bloody loud music in them small cafes, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to hear each other talk.
Yeah, you couldn't go in there for a casual little coffee just to think.
Well, I guess back then, music coming up was pretty big,
I suppose it's if the owner liked it, then it's tough. You've got to listen to it as loud as he wants.
Right. I think that, at that time period, like, to have music so accessible was probably like a big deal and a draw for patrons to come to like a cafe or something like that. I really feel like that's probably the reason why we see that sort of thing.
And they're always arguing because there's always one miserable person that doesn't want music, and then everybody else in there does.
Right. That does happen. I think that still happens today. There's not a whole lot of jukeboxes anymore at restaurants, but there's a few out in my area. And so I do enjoy that. I think it's pretty neat. We have this, it's not an old diner, but it's set up to be old. If you've ever seen American Graffiti, a George Lucas movie, it's a large amount of it's set around a restaurant called Mel's. And original Mel's is from San Francisco area, and there's a few other locations here. And we have 2 of them here in my hometown, which is awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and they used to be like sock hop kind of drive-in restaurants. You'd pull up, and then the girls would come on roller skates or whatever. I mean, ours aren't that way, but I believe that was like sort of the original intent of it. And all of the restaurants are like decked out with images from American Graffiti. So you got like Ron Howard and all these people from the movie, George Lucas and all this kind of stuff. And then the rest of the restaurant is got musical posters and concerts from the area and just different cool memorabilia from musicians. But they have these little jukeboxes at the table that you can, put your quarters in and select a song and play, and it will feed it to the main big jukebox, and it will either play at a low volume through the whole restaurant, or you can adjust the volume just at your table to make it louder for you.
Oh, that's cool.
I always liked it. That was always fun and neat. But it also scares me because I remember the Twilight Zone episode with William Shatner with the little thing at the table with the fortunes, the little devil thing. I don't know if you recall that, but it always makes me think of that.
I just got visions of you sat on a table like, no, don't do it. Don't put the money in.
Yeah.
See, a place like that for me is dangerous because I'd never leave. They'd be like, we finished your food 3 hours ago. You need to get out. No, I'm not done. Still got quarters. I'm not going nowhere.
Right. But yeah, so right off the bat, I really think you can see the mastery of Huston and his DP in terms of storytelling and film. I think there's like this really fantastic depth and texture to this movie, particularly on the outside scenes, and then more to a subtler extent, interior stuff that he does. They're just, considered camera tricks, I guess, with like the rack focusing, things like that, or the split focus. And it instantly just tells you that this is a movie of quality. Like there was money put into this. It's directed by a good director and a cinematographer. They just did a great job with the use of the landscaping and the setting, in general, even though we don't know what it is. And it's totally interesting. That this farm he wants to buy where he grew up was Kansas or something. Like they say where it's at, but you have no idea what city you're in.
Yeah, or how far away he is to it.
Right. So I just thought that was pretty interesting.
I like Bob the detective. Bob the private detective.
The private detective?
Yeah, he was the Orlando's private detective. Well, the one that he
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh.
And he was like, I can't do that. Well, that was a great waste of time, wasn't it? To hire someone that can't do it.
Right, yeah. I don't think he had enough character in the movie. I think he was in it for, time being, but I didn't think there was like really enough for him. He didn't have anything to do. It was just a muscle sitting in the background.
I liked him, and I liked Kobe. They were my 2 favorite. The money man that had all the money, but was sweating all the time when he had to count money.
Well, you're picking all these people that are in the movie for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, didn't like Diggs.
Really?
All
right.
Oh, speaking of Russell Crowe, yeah, I interrupted you. Sorry.
It's interesting that you didn't like him because usually you like those down and out male protagonists, anti-heroes.
Yeah.
So why didn't you like him? What was your issue?
I just found him a bit boring.
You found him boring?
Yeah.
The dude gets into a massive heist and he's boring?
Yes, but he's the most boring one out of them. Even the 90-year-old man, he's got more charisma than him.
Goodness. All right. Each their own.
I don't know. I think he was particularly trying to play it a certain way, and I just wasn't quite vibing with that. Like, I don't think it was him. I think it was intentional. I just wasn't overly keen on that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mind him at all. I didn't think he was boring. I was always interested in his motivations and what's going on in his head, because he doesn't necessarily say a lot about himself or what's going on.
Or a lot in general.
In his head. Yeah. And so I kind of like that. I mean, that's the one thing that I liked in The Man Who Wasn't There from Billy Bob Thornton's performance. Like, to do that sort of thing, I think there's a very important skill set that an actor has to be able to maintain in order for it to be believable. No, I get it, I guess. I do like how reserved the editing is. It's not flashy. It lays it out, and it's concise. And I know most people won't ever really pay attention to that kind of shit, but being an editor, it's something that I typically am able to sort of pick up on and enjoy. Much like when we watched The Red House, in that third act, you can kind of tell that it gets a little long. They should have picked up the pace. I mean, with this film, I thought that they kept the pacing pretty well set out, and they're very reserved with their editing. They didn't do any sort of flashy stuff.
Yeah, it didn't need it, did it?
No, I don't think so. I think this is very much about telling this story in a visual way, but by what you see on screen, not by anything else. And I think that's really apparent with the DP and the editing. There's another great scene that I do like with in regards to the director of photography, when I can't think of his name, but the guy that initiates this whole heist that wants to steal the jewelry.
Oh, the old man.
Yeah. When he gets out, he takes the cab to the bookie or whoever this guy is, and gets out of the cab, and there's this long hallway, sort of frame within a frame shot, and it's silhouetted sort of thing. And there's like multiple people in the hallway, and it's all claustrophobic feeling and whatnot. I just really love that sort of up close and personal. If something happens in here, it's not going to go well kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was really cool how they did that. Kind of made it feel very dangerous, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you know that this is a pretty seedy thing about to go down. So certain things like that just really serve the movie well. But although when he does go into that room, I did catch, and I don't know if this is something anybody else would really catch, but on the ceiling, there's some film equipment. There's a film light, and it's either a gel, or probably not a gel, but some sort of diffusion over it that you can see up hanging from the ceiling. And that's one thing that I noticed about these older films. You don't typically see mess ups like that. And I think this is the first time that I recall seeing a piece of film equipment on set.
Oh.
And I'm not sure if it's meant to be disguised with the diffusion in front of it, or if it was, they're just like, nobody's going to know what it is, so who cares, or what the deal is. But it's hanging up, on the ceiling, and you can see it. So if you have an eye for anything like that, it's not hard.
I'm rubbish at spotting stuff like that.
Yeah. It's funny because while we were doing the documentary Millennium After the Millennium, there's a good amount of footage from the actual show that's cut into the documentary, and there's several scenes that while I was cutting, I found crew members standing around like on the side of the frame, or C stands or lights or certain things. There's several of Frank Black's flashes that he has where you can see like C stands and random other things in the images when you slow them down. And then there's this one particular scene where the Millennium Group is meeting in this like warehouse, and the color correction is as such where it's very film noir. It's very dark and moody, but off to the side as the camera is pushing in, you see a crew member standing there. And as the camera pushes in, you see him move out of the way. And it's supposed to be like so dark on the side that you can't see him, or he's not even supposed to be there, obviously. But you can see him there, and I think he's wearing shorts or something like that. It's just
very
it's
film
just kind of
noir.
funny.
Yeah, very film noir in my shorts and my trainers and my cap.
But TV is it's a different beast because they got to shoot those in like 8 days, like basically a whole movie in 8 days.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, and but something like this, a big Hollywood film directed by a well-known director. It must have just been one of those things where like, nobody's going to know what that is.
And then came along Jason Morris to just...
I ruined it for everybody.
Ruined it for everybody.
Yeah. So you didn't like Dix. You don't like Sterling Hayden. Do you like him in other stuff?
I do like him in other stuff. I just didn't particularly like this character. I just thought he was the most depressing thing walking around that I'd seen in quite a long time. And then I watched the Billy Bob Thornton film, and he won that title. But I just didn't jar with him, because that's why I said, like, it's not the actor. He's obviously playing it a particular way, and I just wasn't really keen on that sort of stoic, mindless way. Of
course not. You only like it when it's attractive people that you do like.
Exactly. If we could get more of those, that'd be great.
Yeah. Should have been Guy Pearce with blonde hair.
Should have been Guy
What were
Pearce.
they thinking?
God. If only I had a time machine.
Oh my God. Oh, geez.
I could take him with me because he was in that, so.
Could have had the Morlocks doing the heist.
Yeah, I don't have to fix it, guys. Don't worry.
Well, I mean, even though you didn't like him, I thought he was great. But I particularly liked Gus. I think he was a real standout actor and character.
Yeah, I like
James Whitmore. I thought was just rather good. So I don't know, and I'm gonna keep an eye out for him and other stuff. I feel like, I don't know why, but was he the actor that has the plate in his head in Blue Dahlia?
Oh, interesting.
For some reason,
quite a similar style, but I don't think it was the same guy, but I can see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it just like kind of popped into my head that I was thinking that was him. I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm curious. But I really enjoyed him. I thought he was great.
Gosh, he was in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Heck of a lot of stuff.
I guess not, because he actually didn't start until late 1949 was. Oh, this is only a partial filmography. But I think Blue Dahlia would be on here. Oh, he's in the movie Them. You'll like that because it's about bugs.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, you got to check it out now.
Bugs taking people's eyeballs, not a thing for me.
My goodness, he kept acting into the 2000s.
That's why I was sort of wasn't responding to you, because I was looking at. It's like, wow.
He's in The Majestic. That's such a good movie.
Sure.
Anyway, sorry, we're wasting so much time looking up James Whitmore.
Clicking.
He's that good in the movie, though. Even with all those positives that I point out, the big problem with the movie, in my eyes, is that it doesn't do anything new. There's nothing they don't push the envelope in any way other than it's just very solid direction and cinematography. The acting is good. Everything works.
Oh, The Killing. Sorry to interrupt. That's what I was trying to find. That film that I like Sterling Hayden in.
Oh, okay.
The Killing. I found it. Never mind. Sorry.
I don't think I've seen that one. I'll have to look at it.
Yeah, it's quite good.
But I don't think that they did anything that was like sort of pushing the envelope other than a few camera tricks, like the rack focus and split focus, things like that. So I think that's really the film's main negative, is that he wasn't really trying to push the envelope. But that's okay. That's what they set out to make, and they made it very well. And as such, I think that's all right. I guess for John Huston, I expected a little bit more, I guess.
I just found it a bit long.
I didn't find it long. It's interesting.
I liked all of the heist stuff, and even, going over the top and going into that much detail. I still liked all that, and I liked the character stuff beforehand. The problem I had with it was after they did the heist. That, to me, was just getting a little bit monotonous and ridiculous. Like, I mean, he's been shot, and he's bleeding everywhere. They're just sat having a chinwag. This happens about 4 times. And then it takes him, he goes on a little last-minute journey for we don't even know. It could have been 3 days. It could have been 3 minutes, because we don't know where they are, to go and find his farm. But it just seems so long, considering how much focus was spent on the Dick's character. Like, they killed the others. One was suicide. The other guy got caught. They were all done really fast, but the Dick's character just seemed to just get pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And then, I don't know, it just didn't quite... I would rather have them all had an equal amount of time, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And I think part of that comes from you not actually liking the Dick's character. I think if you had liked him,
well, maybe, yeah,
it might have worked a little better for you in that sense. But I get that, especially if you just don't like the character. Like,
I did like that he was trying to get to his farm, though. I thought that was, but like the whole thing where they stop at the doctor's, I thought was unnecessary.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was, but that's the whole reason why it's in there, because it is unnecessary and he loses time because of it. And that something like that probably is the reason why he dies, because they go to a vet instead of a doctor. She's worried about him. Obviously, it feeds more into their character development, I guess, more. Yeah. But you have to, again, you think you just really have to like the character in order to buy any of that or care that it's happening. Because if you don't like Dix, then yeah, you're not going to give a shit.
I thought it was nice when he collapsed on the floor to finally die.
When he dies,
got wound that had taken like every ounce of blood in him,
right.
But not enough to stop him from driving a car. And then the horses kind of like all came to him. I thought that was nice. That was a nice little image to end on, like back where he was. He made it back to where he wanted to find. I'd just rather it hadn't taken that long to get there.
Yeah, it definitely gave him good closure. Unfortunately, he doesn't get to spend the rest of his life. Well, I guess he did spend the rest of his life there. But
can you imagine being the person who bought that farm with that woman showing up like, there's a dead guy in your field?
I don't think she would tell anybody. I think she would just, I'm going to go back to the car.
I was never here.
Where are those diamonds at?
Yeah.
Oh, and we didn't talk about the surprise cameo.
You kept it hidden very well.
Yeah, so our main bad guy, the guy who wants I guess he's the fence, the guy that was going to buy the diamonds and then screws him over, doesn't have the money. He was going to steal the diamonds from, strong arm these guys. His girlfriend, who ends up being his alibi in the film, because of course, all 60-year-old, 70-year-old men who are married and are wealthy have these young 20-something girlfriends. His girlfriend is Marilyn Monroe, which I was really surprised to see.
I had to pause it.
Yeah.
That's not Marilyn. That's Marilyn Monroe.
Right. Apparently this was her first significant role. I guess maybe she just done this is actually a really small part.
Yeah.
But it does give her something to do. And it is a significant role, especially for, this particular character, I can't think of his name, but the fence, the guy that's going to buy the diamonds or pretend to. Alonzo, okay. So, because she's his alibi and all that kind of stuff. And she has to, she rolls over on him, just out of fear or whatnot. But, I was pretty surprised to see her in it. Everything else just sort of expectantly, steadily tumbles to conclusion.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing overall about it is that these people just don't get caught.
Oh my God, it's horrible. What happens? Well, it's really.
Yeah, it is. They don't just get caught. And maybe that's the takeaway from this movie. This is sort of the the lesson to be learned is that they all are done in by their own devices. I mean, they decimate themselves.
Yeah.
They like, it's particularly, I mean, the stupidity of the man that gets out of prison, the older guy, having this taste for younger females or just women in general, stops at the diner at the end. I mean, he could very well just keep driving.
Yeah, he could have completely got away with it.
But his appetite there just gets the best of him, and he's got to sit here and watch this girl. And because of that, of course, a couple cops show up and see him and recognize him, and he gets arrested. And, you know, I just, everything like that happens for every character in a way. They're all, it just feels like they all sort of like can't make good decisions at all. Like, and that's probably why they're in that situation, is because they're just not capable of making a good decision. Not necessarily because they're bad people, which, I mean, they're thieves, they're bad, but they're good in their own way. They're just not capable of making wholesome choices.
No. Alonzo should have just sat and played cards with his wife every night, and it would have been fine.
Right. Yeah. Just he should have. So yeah, I mean, moral story: no bad deed goes unpunished. I guess, you know. They do a fine job of punishing themselves.
Yep. Don't even need the police.
Going through the whole movie pretending like there's a way out, and there just isn't. Yeah, and I guess the only person that actually finds a clean exit is the one that shoots himself in the head.
Yeah.
He goes out on his own terms. Everybody else doesn't. And I think because of that, even though this is kind of a glossy movie, I do feel like it's one of the darker film noirs. It's very dark in that sense. And that kind of makes it, you know, noir at its best. It's mostly all downs. There's not a whole lot in this film of good that happens.
Very, very bleak.
Yeah.
Very, very bleak. But then again, I guess some people could argue so's life. So
yeah, it's
quite accurate.
Yeah, it's very grounded, very realistic in a lot of ways. Yep, you're right. And I guess that's the beauty of it, and why it works so well for me. I have a feeling you're going to have a slightly different opinion of it overall, but I did enjoy it myself. But all right, we are at that time. Everybody in this movie is dead, and time to move on.
That's it.
Let's see how many gens we're going to be pouring out for the homies. What you got, Carly?
I'm gonna go with 7. Because
that's a little better than I expected.
Yeah, well, I really liked the first half. I liked a lot of things in particular about it. The heist, a lot of the other characters, just because I wasn't keen on Dix. I did like a lot of the others. I even like Marilyn Monroe popping up. And I actually kind of liked the sort of morbidness of it. It just got even a little bit much for me.
Oh, interesting.
And you know what I'm like for just rifling through scripts and killing people.
Yeah.
But it even got a bit much for me. I just got too bored with it towards the end. That stopped really caring.
It's too long for you.
Yeah, just all the character set up, which is a shame because it just fizzled away. The more and more I just zoned out, and I thought I don't care.
Yeah,
which is a shame. But yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all right. And I mean, that makes sense. And again, I think it just goes back to not liking Dix. If you had liked him, I think all that stuff probably would have been a little bit better for you, but that's understandable. It's hard to, these movies that are so bleak and so dark sometimes, I think, to really find relatability to them sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think that could be, you know, part of the problem, I think, for some people. But yeah, when you don't like the lead character, things are going to go downhill. But 7's respectable. I didn't expect that. I thought you would probably give it more like a 5-ish.
Well, it wasn't a bad made film. And like I said, there was a lot of positives it's not a film where there's just a guy and a girl. There was loads of characters, so me not really liking one, probably impacted not liking the last act. But there was a lot in between that I liked. So it'd be unfair for me to call it a crap film just for that, because it wasn't.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd also bitch at you if you called it a crap film, but
Would I ever? Would I ever do such a thing? That's not on Facebook Messenger.
Not to the general public, right? Don't want to be receiving hate mail.
I've got enough already.
I'm going to go slightly higher than you. I'm going to give this movie 8.
Oh, I thought you would have gone a little bit higher, to be fair.
No, because again, I don't think it pushes the envelope enough. I think it's a high quality, it's a well-made film that I think is shot fairly well. I think that they luckily enough had enough opportunity or money or time or something in order to pull out a few interesting camera tricks that serve the story. And you can tell it's well directed. But other than the actual heist itself, I don't think that they did a whole lot that was new or fresh or interesting enough to give it like a 10 or something like that. I think it's just a well-made film in general. And as such, I think it's rewatchable for me. I would definitely watch it again. This is something I would probably buy to keep, Yeah. But I enjoy it, but it's not a Holy Grail movie. It's not a top 10 kind of film for me. But I did like it. I did enjoy it. It's worth watching, in my opinion. It's so bleak and so dark, and I think the characters are well drawn out, and the heist itself is well drawn out. Like you mentioned, the interviews, things like that. I think the cinematography is really great. I think they really present the city wherever it might be, and maybe that's the whole point. It could be any metropolitan city, it doesn't matter where. It just kind of swallows you up. You're just a number kind of thing. And that's their whole purpose, is to get out, at least Dick says. So as such, I don't know. I thought it was well worth the watch, and enjoyable. Great cast as well. So there you go. 8 gens out of 10 and 7 gens out of 10. Not bad. Well, there you have it, guys. The Asphalt Jungle. We hope you guys enjoy watching the movie if you get a chance, or if you've already seen it, let us know what your thoughts are. You can send us a message on Facebook or from our website or on Anchor, wherever you like. You can find us. We're out there. Leave us a review as well on Apple or wherever it is that you're listening to us from. We want to hear from you guys, all right? And until next time.
Bye-bye.
He's looking at you, kid.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Speakeasy Noircast. Make sure to visit our website, resurrectionfilms.net, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or any of your favorite podcast apps so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you like the show, you might want to check out our book, The Dark Side of Acting Up, and The Dark Side of Acting Up Volume 2, now available on Amazon. Or you can check out one of our films, also available on Amazon Prime. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the Speakeasy Noircast.